Another edition of Thoughts from the Balcony. So today I want to talk a little about fire. I lived in and was born in Southern California for big parts of my life. And the period of time I'm going to talk a little about was in the late 90s and early 2000s. And I quit, I've been a smoker, and as I had cleaned up my life more and more gradually, sometime in the late 90s, late 98 or so, I quit smoking cigarettes, and I really kind of traded one addiction for another, and I began running. And I hated running at first, but I liked the effect that it produced. I'd go running, I'd get home, and I would be able to relax for a little while. Endorphins kicked in, right? So, fine. Well, I was living in Southern California. It is a pretty place to be outside. I was living in Long Beach when I quit smoking and began running in earnest. And then, however, I ended up moving to Calabasas. If anyone knows Southern California, it's the far west San Fernando Valley, right up against the Santa Monica Mountains and Malibu Creek State Park. And I literally lived across the street from an entrance to Malibu Creek State Park on the valley side. So, I began kind of exploring around there and began running out there. And well, that kind of touched off a whole chapter of my life about trail running. And it really changed my life. And I'd been in wilderness areas and done a lot of horseback riding, backpacking, etc. in my life already. So I'm very trail savvy and acclimated to doing that kind of stuff, but I just started getting into running in the trails, and that developed into an entire hobby. Well, I began consequently exploring vast swaths of Southern California terrain, mountain, beach, desert, as a runner, running, 10, 15, 20, up to 30, 33 miles was my longest run, no joke. Talking about 7,000 foot elevation gains. It was really it was a whole vocation, so to speak. I would prepare for my runs and then execute them, trail maps and studying them and plotting out the mileage, etc. And I would plan my runs several weeks in advance. The run I'd be preparing for this week would be a week, 3 weeks from now, and I'd already really prepared the run that I was about to make this coming Sunday, like that. Anyway, why do I talk about all that? Because I began observing the state of our forests in California, and you'd find I'd come upon a very charred area that had been in a recent burn, and then other, not so recent burn areas where you can see the brush growing back, and then, old growth areas where you could plainly see that it hadn't burned in my lifetime probably, and you can just tell this is a tinderbox, And I remember discussing with those around me that were close to me at the time my concerns about the state of overgrowth and poor management of the forests, as beautiful as they were in their state of overgrowth, because they're very pretty when you have all these, and I don't know, to talk a little bit about the type of brush that I was seeing, as well as conifers, pine forests, etc. But a lot of California forests, in Southern California especially, are chaparral, which is a very thick kind of brush. There's many other types of brush, but the predominant type of brush is chaparral. And when it grows and has a chance to grow for years and even decades, it just becomes such fuel for fire. I wish I could show it to you, and maybe I'll learn how to edit videos and put a picture of chaparral or a little video of someone's video, a clip of someone's video of chaparral. In any event, and then I started studying and reading about the state of the forests in the United States and in California in particular, and the battle that was raging then in the late 90s, early 2000s about what to do about forest management. controlled burning proposals, brush clearing, clearing of fallen trees and brush that had died already. And then there's the whole thing about where when you're going to build a home, live around the forest, the wilderness, the edge of the forest, then why you need to clear away a certain area, a swath around your property, so that if a fire comes, your house doesn't burn down. Well, basically, without getting in too much into detail, and I apologize for not citing chapter and verse here, but this is just a talk. There was a whole lot of pushing the ball down the road or down the field, kicking the ball down the field, punting, right? And I saw that, and then I ended up getting laid off. We moved to Texas, and I kind of didn't study that a whole lot anymore. Well, come to 2020, and we see 4 million acres of California forest to burn, and we talk about the first thing I heard is climate change. Well, maybe that's a factor, but that's a lot harder for us to control. What we could have controlled, can control, and haven't controlled is this rampant overgrowth. Forests are meant to burn, and when they burn, it's good for the forest. Seeds have a chance to go through a transformational process that only fire can give, and it's good for the health of the forest to burn periodically, and we don't let it burn. We have to put every fire out because we're afraid of our homes burning down, because we built so many houses on the edge of the forests and haven't cleared swaths around them to keep our homes protected. So it's just a big mess. And then you have Pacific Gas and Electric with its old power grid that is a fire hazard. So then then they feel obligated to turn off the power in areas where high winds are going to cause overgrowth that hasn't been taken care of, to fall in their old infrastructure. So it's just a mess. And I'm sorry, California, but you guys created it. You made your mess, or you let your mess get like it is, and now you're paying for it. And, yeah, we can talk about climate change, and I suppose it could be a factor, but again, let's talk about what things we can control or could have controlled. And those are my thoughts this morning about fire. I'd love to know your thoughts.